All right. It's at the top of the hour. So, for those of you with whom I have not yet met, my name is Al Hedstrom. I am the past council chair from Multiple District 19. As council chair, I was proud to represent over 10,000 Lions in British Columbia, Washington, and northern Idaho. If I had the opportunity to do it again, I'd jump on it. The intent of this session is not to replace the Zone Chair training provided by the Lions Learning Center or the Zone Chair ebook or any other training provided by your district or multiple district. Instead, we're going to explore some of the duties and responsibilities that may not be spelled out specifically or lightly covered in other training forms. In other words, this is a supplement. The session is geared for Lions in constitutional areas 1 and 2, Canada and the US. Some of this information may not be applicable outside North America, so you need to be aware of that. As we walk through this material, I strongly encourage you to take notes, and the PowerPoint is going to be available for anybody that would like a copy. I want to talk about a couple of items before we actually get this underway. First of all, we understand that ours is a volunteer organization. We understand this when we joined up. We also know that by now, when you volunteer for a club event of some sort, if you're not able to make it, it's okay. They're not going to dock your pay. Your fellow Lions may give you a hard time at the next meeting, but that's about it. But when you step into a position of leadership, within our organization, you're stepping away from that of a volunteer. You're obligating yourself. You're publicly telling your fellow Lions that you're going to accomplish and complete certain goals, certain requirements. I hope you recognize this when you were club president or secretary. I actually think this is a 3-year obligation before, during, and after. Yeah. For those of you that are coming into or have already stepped into the zone chair position, I offer my congratulations and encouragement. We also need to keep aware in the back of our mind that things change. To improve the condition of your zone, to make it better than last year, it may mean making certain changes somewhere, somehow. Now, change is difficult. As humans, we are naturally resistant to change. We become accustomed to doing certain things in a certain way, and to suggest changes is a terrible and wrenching difficulty. This is especially true of traditions and expectations not required by a constitution or bylaws or policy manual. To make changes sometimes means challenging the status quo, challenging traditions or expectations. If you recognize a way to improve your zone by means of changing a tradition or expectation, you should seriously consider it. Seriously consider challenging the status quo. I bring this up because many years ago, my wife and I were vacationing in Mazatlan, Mexico. Wonderful place to visit, really enjoyed ourselves. And of course, I invited myself to a local Lions meeting down there. And they did something I had never seen before. They started their meeting with the president of the club calling the meeting to order. Everyone rose, they stood up, and the secretary read aloud the Lions Code of Ethics. And then they sat down and got down to business. Now, I had never seen anything like that before. Came back home and I did some poking around in constitution and bylaws for clubs and district and so forth and so on, right on up to the international suggested constitutional bylaws. And I found out that there are only 2 things that are required to conduct a Lions meeting: call to order and adjourn. Everything in between is optional. Something for you to consider. So, challenge the status quo. If it makes sense, if it will improve your zone, it's worth seriously considering. The agenda for this evening: I want to talk about responsibilities. I want to talk about some references and resources that are available to you. And I want to talk about what you can expect, what you might want to do before, during, and after your term as zone chair. I want to talk about responsibilities. First of all, as zone chair, you are a member of the district global action team. The global action team If you're not familiar with GAT, then you need to do some poking around. You need to do some educating. This is an important element with our organization, and you are a member of that team. And as zone chair, you're going to be regularly chairing the district governor's advisory meeting. This is also known as the zone meeting. In LCI speak, it's the DGAM, the district governor advisory meeting. So this is part of your responsibilities, and you want, and chances are, in observing the current or past zone chairs, you've seen this going on, which is cool. Now I need to get active on my screen here. Here we are. With each of your DGAM, with each of your zone meetings, you need to make a report of this to Lions International and to the district governor, with copies to the GAT crew. If you are not familiar with this, if you haven't seen it before, open up your Zone Share ebook. There is a link to the report form in the ebook, and you can pick it up from there. Not a difficult thing to do. Just need to make sure that you do this every time you do the zone meeting. You're going to be working with the GAT. The district GAT is the leadership, the service, the membership, and the extension elements of GAT. And you want to make sure that your particular goals that you assemble are going to be working with, dovetailing with theirs as well. This can be very important, and of course, it can mean a great deal of success. As zone chair, you're going to be representing each of your clubs in your zone with any problems or celebrations with the district, multiple district, and Lions International, of course. Visitations. The requirement for club visits are spelled out in your district's constitution and bylaws. Results may vary. So that means that maybe in one district that there are certain requirements and other districts are different. And that's fine. But this is an opportunity for you to keep your clubs informed of events inside and outside of your zone. I personally enjoy visiting clubs in any zone, any district. And I visit each of these clubs with larceny in my heart. Now, I don't go there with the intent of stealing the club gavel or the bell or any of that. No, no, no. My intent is to steal their ideas. And I bring those ideas back to my club, in my zone, in my district. Sometimes we take up those ideas, sometimes not, and that's fine. But everyone thinks that I'm a genius because I'm always coming up with these great ideas that I've actually stolen from others. A mere suggestion. Here we are. Preparation. Before you step into the position of zone chair, some of the things that you may want to seriously consider pursuing. First of all, be familiar with your resources. Some of the best resources that you have available to you are those that came before you, especially the immediate past zone chair, the Lions who want to help you succeed, and Lions will want to help you succeed. They want to see success in this. And of course, your fellow district cabinet members. As zone chair, you are a member of the district cabinet, and you want to rely heavily on their information, their goings on. It can make a difference with what you do. You want to be familiar with the Constitution and bylaws for your club, for your district, for your multiple district. I know the club Constitution bylaws is dry reading. I know. And I sympathize, but you really need to do this. Why? Because you may be asked questions like, is the tail twister a member of the board of directors? Or can a zone chair also be a district chair? Or what's the selection process for the district governor position? If you don't know the answer to some of these detailed questions, your default response should be something on the order of, I'm not sure, let me find out and I'll get back to you. And many times you're going to find the answer is in the Constitution and bylaws or possibly the policy manual. So you want to be familiar with these different references, have them handy, have them downloaded on your computer, your iPad, your tablet, whatever you use, have them handy because you're going to find yourself using them. The Zone Share ebook is your Bible. You want to download this. You want to read this. You want to be aware of this. In the Lions Learning Center, the Zone Chair Path is a series of courses designed for the incoming, for the new zone chair. You want to take these courses. These are important. And you also want to search out some other reference and template material that you're going to be finding in Lions International. At the LCI website, you want to utilize the search tool for zone chair. I realize that you probably know how to do this. Maybe I'm not going to be showing you anything new, but I'm going to do it anyhow. At the Lions website, right there at the top right corner, that little magnifying glass, that is your search tool. You click on that and you type in something to the effect of zone chair or zone chair person. I just typed in zone chair and I got a great big list. I didn't have to hit the enter key. All I did was type in zone chair and I got this great big list. And I selected the first item on that list and it brought me this. That first link right there is 3 or 4 pages with references, with links to references that you want to be familiar with. I'm not going to show you the entire thing. It would be too long, too lengthy. But there's a wealth of information in that link, and you want to be familiar with this. You may want to seriously consider bookmarking that particular page because it's got such great material in it. So that's your reference material. You also want to get very comfortable with LCI's member portal. I'm not saying familiar here, I'm saying comfortable. You want to be thoroughly familiar, thoroughly comfortable with all of the tools found in there. The 3 most important tools that you're going to find in there, of course, My LCI, and we've been utilizing that for a long, long time. The My Lion tool, that's the tool with which we report service, and the Insights. This is the database. This is the data that you can poke around in and find out straight numbers. I'm not talking about names or anything like that. I'm talking about straight numbers on a wide variety of topics. Understand this is a database for read-only purposes. You cannot break it. So do some poking around in there. Find out what's going on in your particular club, in your particular zone, in your particular district, with regards to membership, with regards to hours of service provided, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a ton of information inside there, and it's all database, and it's available for you to use. Get comfortable here. Getting to know the clubs in your zone. Consider regularly visiting your clubs, each of your clubs, for a meeting or a project or a fundraiser at least once before you're taking office. I'm not saying this is required, certainly not, but it's merely a suggestion. This can be an important element of preparation. Your district may expect you to visit clubs during your term, of course, but the purpose of visiting clubs before your term is to establish connections and avoid surprises during your term. And always bring with you a positive attitude and positive messages of encouragement. Hey, I'm not muted. Good. Assembling a cabinet or a support team. Your district may have a formal cabinet structure for the zone. Maybe it's an informal structure, whatever, whether you call it a cabinet, whether you call it a support team. If it's somewhat formalized, you probably want to have a secretary keeping notes, which is always a good thing. And you want to incorporate the GAT idea or the GAT structure within your support team as well. At the zone level, a GST, GMT, GLT, GET. I know, here we go with those acronyms. We love those acronyms, don't we? You also want to include, of course, the immediate past zone chair. This is someone who knows by experience. And I asked the question about AZC. Yeah. In our districts, we've had for some time the associate zone chair. And the associate zone chair is an informal position. It's not really something that someone is appointed or elected to. They just sort of say, hey, I can help out and maybe I'll take over next year. This might be your associate zone chair. If you are fortunate enough to have an associate zone chair, make sure that this person is involved with as many of your activities as you can bring them in. But certainly consider the associate zone chair, even if this particular item or the cabinet is not a formal requirement within the district, within the constitutional bylaws. When you're bringing in your support team, seriously consider bringing in some fresh faces with fresh ideas to help you along. I know that means change. You also want to develop and lay out your plans for the zone goals. These need to be aligned with the district goals, and you want to utilize the SMART standard. If you're not familiar with SMART, when developing your goals, you want to get real familiar. This is an outstanding standard that a lot of project managers ascribe to. I strongly encourage utilizing it. And you want to develop your goals with your support team, with your cabinet, with the people that are directly helping you out. The overriding goal should always be to improve your zone so that when you hand it off to the next person, they've got something better than what you started off with. You also want to get familiar with the grants that are available from LCI and LCIF. It used to be not so very long ago that the only grants that were available to districts and multiple districts. They now have grants that are available to clubs. Do some poking around. Find out what these different grants are available for. They tend to concentrate on leadership, membership, and service, and extension as well. They concentrate, but they're not solely on those specific items. But do some looking around. Grants are available. You'll want to be aware. An online calendar. For some people, they may not have seriously considered this. When I was zone chair and when I was district governor, this was something that turned out to be a very good piece of information, because I always kept it current. I always made sure that everyone was aware that my calendar was always available, and this is where to find it. It worked very, very nicely. You want to share this at the very least with your club secretaries and presidents, and of course with district leadership. But share it far and wide. This is not a requirement, but it is an excellent communications tool. There are many websites that offer this service free of charge and do not require registration for anyone to view your calendar. So do some looking around. You can actually find some very good ideas here. Preparation. Be ready to help. When I'm talking about being ready to help, I'm talking about things like the annual club planning session. You know, if you make yourself available for something like this, this is an excellent tool for you to get to know your clubs. You might want to consider participating in different events by your club's zone, district, maybe even participate in organizing these events. Collaborating with joint service or fundraising projects. Oh, what a great idea. And probably the most valuable asset that you can offer to every club in your zone is your time and your skills. Make sure everyone understands that you're offering this up for their help. And of course, a successor. Who's going to follow you? Look around. Start eyeballing someone who might take your place next year. Engage with them, hopefully more than one. Talk about how your zone can be improved. Of course, the first concern should probably be membership, but engage on service, engage on leadership. If you can engage someone that you think might be a good zone chair, you're setting up your successor, and things are going to flow nicely from there. Once you're in place, you're in action, you want to make sure that you are in continuous communication with your clubs and with district leadership. It's important. If you disappear from the horizon, and things are not going to go well. You need to be in communication with district governor, with a district cabinet, clubs, etc. You want to be able to participate in as many events as possible, and you want to make regular reports to the district governor. This is not a formalized report that you have to make. This is something that you want to use to keep your governor informed of what's going on. It doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't have to be every month. Maybe it's as things occur. Whatever happens to work for you, but keep your district governor informed. Expenses. This is always a bugaboo. This is always a problem. LCI does not provide expense for zone chairs, but many districts do. And maybe sometimes it's the multiple district. I put here results may vary. So you want to check around with your particular district, your particular multiple district to find out what is available to reimburse for expenses as zone chair. While you're in office, you want to have regular meetings with your cabinet or support team. Now, the meetings can be something like this, what we're doing right now with Zoom. Maybe it's face-to-face. Maybe it's just phone calls. But you want to be in regular communications with them so that everybody understands what everyone else is doing and things are flowing nicely. The zone meetings, district governor advisory meetings. This is for sharing and celebrating success. This is for seriously bringing in some new faces, maybe guest speakers that are not lions. And you want to advertise these far and wide. You want to touch as many people as possible on these advertisements and make it a point of inviting district leadership, not just the governor, but district leadership to every meeting. Probably can't expect the district governor to attend every meeting, but make the invitation available. And of course, once it's done, you want to make that report to the district governor and others. Again, the link for that is in your Zone Chair ebook. I like this one right here because it really focuses on something that I think we all understand. It's sort of in the back of our heads, but your zone's success really starts with you. If you are somehow missing in action, then things are going to start falling apart. So you really want to keep a focus. And I talked about this. Once you recognize a successor, engage with them early. Again, discussions about improving your zone are going to be very, very helpful. You know, when you do this, you are in effect tapping a fellow lion on the shoulder and suggesting that they step forward. The handoff. This is an easy part. This is the fun part. And that's a celebration where you can bring in as many lions as you can, not leadership. I'm talking as many lions as you can to celebrate the accomplishments of your clubs in your zone and to hand it off to the next zone chair. Maybe it's a banner, maybe it's a gavel and bell, whatever is in for your particular zone. This is your opportunity for a handoff celebration. And you want to make a big deal of it. You really do.
One of the questions that I think you're going to want to answer is, can you log into Lions Clubs International and show people where the member portal is? They're having a hard time finding the Zone Chair Learning Path. And while you're pulling that up, I will mention that the Zone Chair Learning Path only shows up when you log in if you are listed as a zone chair in my LCI for this Lions year. It is a special path designed just for zone chairs alone. Well, Al is working on that. Those of you who are participating, you've got to have some questions for Al. He has been around the block. So if you could please share those in the chat. Richard is asking the question while you're doing that, Al, about whether we can do zone meetings online. I know that we have done zone meetings online here in my area, and I've been participating in them from across the globe. It's really a question of how your zone is going to be best able to meet. You know, your zone, your way, I guess is the way we'll put it.
So the Lions Learning Center means that when we're working with the Lions Learning Center, we have to utilize this tool right here, and we find it at the top of every LCI page, the member login. You click on the login, and you sign in. So this is the members portal. And this is the typical stuff that we find right up here, top center. My Lion, My LCI, Insights, Learn. Ah, so it is from here that we can start wandering through and looking at some of the different tools that are available. The Lions Learning Center is what we want to concentrate on right here. By the way, as I scroll down, different goings on for the International Institutes, and your district GLT can include training going on for your district in this location as well. But I'm going to go to the Lions Learning Center. From the Lions Learning Center, a completely different view here. So I'm looking at the start here, also known as home. And from here, what I can do is I can look for several paths. And I encourage looking at, so look for the word path. For instance, Club President Learning Path, Council Chair Learning Path. Gee, what a great idea. How about if we look at the content library? Again, the idea of a path is a series of courses designed for that particular position, such as club secretary. Or you can search by the content library over here on the left side. And from the left side, you can start wandering through and looking at specific paths and courses that you may want to consider. Action planning to achieve district goals, as a for instance. All of this is free of charge, by the way. And in order to start a course, you click on the course button and you're on your way.
Al, I'm going to share that Natalie had another screen that is important for us, I think, to share with our attendees tonight. This is the new page for the region and zone chairpersons with global membership approach. And it has all the tools and resources you need to take the global membership approach out to your clubs. And it's built around the 4 areas of the build a team, build a vision, build a plan, build success. And then with all the support materials and links to them underneath it. They did a fantastic job of pulling everything together for us in one spot. They also have other items for resources for reaching your clubs, including a club presentation, the club plan for success guide, and the PowerPoint if you want to use it that goes along with it. And along with some additional support materials they list. So, hey, Al, I've got some other questions for you. Are you ready?
Sure.
If you have a zone meeting, the question is, who pays for the meal?
That, of course, is up to each zone or district or multiple district. If this is an expensable item, then of course that answers that question. On the other hand, every zone meeting that I've attended that included a meal, it was up to the individual attendee to pay for their own. But that's my experience. And again, your results may vary from zone to zone, from district to district.
Right. One of the other questions was, how do we report to LCI as a zone chair? You talked about that in your message.
In the zone chairperson ebook, there is a report cited for your DGAM for your zone meeting. That report, that particular paragraph also includes a link to the report itself. Utilize that. It's a fillable PDF. You fill it out and you send it on up the line.
Here is a really great question that came up, and I apologize, I did not catch up with all the names of who was with all these questions, but what are we looking for in a successor? I know they should be a past club president. What else, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, you want to check with your district constitution and bylaws because, for instance, our district constitution and bylaws allows for a club president or a club secretary as one of the prerequisites. So check with your constitution and bylaws. And you want to find someone, and this is generally hard to describe, but you generally want to find someone with a certain level of enthusiasm for for improving your zone, someone with some ideas on how to improve your zone. You want someone who is actually asking these questions, and that may be a clue right there. Someone that's asking the questions.
Awesome. Here's a question, and it's kind of come in a couple of different ways, and it's really about who gets invited to zone meetings.
Generally, there's a general consensus or rule or standard, if you will, is that all Lions meetings are not closed meetings. They are not secret meetings. They're open to all Lions. And, generally that's true. There may be an off meeting that a club may hold because some sensitive topic has come up, things like that. But zone meetings, district cabinet meetings, conventions, etc. These are not off limits to the average run-of-the-mill Lion. They're open to all the Lions. And you actually want to encourage attendance by all of your Lions that can to participate in these things. Again, you're going to be conveying information, but you're also going to be receiving information. This can be a great learning tool right there.
Excellent. So let's put that into a follow-up question, because this kind of ties into it, but it's a different side of it. So are the zone chairs able to attend board meetings of the clubs?
Again, generally, all meetings are open to all Lions. Now, it may raise a few eyebrows if there's a club board meeting and you show up unannounced without prior notification. May raise a few eyebrows, and yeah, so you probably want to be a little bit courteous, but ask the question if you can attend, please. Again, these are not secret meetings and things of that nature, but be courteous, be professional, and contact your club president and ask if you can participate in the next one. It may be that you've got some information to convey, or maybe you just want to learn, but be courteous.
Well, hold on, I'm responding to a message in the chat, and now I'm going to ask you the next question. And this one is one that might be a little political. So are you ready? Are you ready for your political hat?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the deal. Is it mandatory that clubs invite the zone chair to some of their meetings?
Well, again, communications in advance. You want to arrange this because it's very possible that if you show up unannounced as zone chair to a club meeting and they've already got a guest speaker, things are going to get a little weird. So you want to communicate in advance. On the other hand, I would hope that there is not a club that specifically does not want to see a zone chair or a district governor. I say that knowing completely true that there are some clubs that have this attitude. I'm being upfront. I'm being honest. I'm not circling around trying to skip over the topic. But hopefully, we've got all of our clubs that understand the position, understand the responsibilities, understand the role of the zone chair, and how the zone chair can hopefully help clubs. We're all fellow Lions. There should not be a reason why we want to include the zone chair because that person is the zone chair. That's a little backwards, in my humble opinion.
So Al, this is really a follow-up to that, because Katrina says that how do you handle if the club has requested that the zone chair not ever attend? And I think you kind of talked a little bit about it from a different direction. But if you're a zone chair and one of your clubs says we never let the zone chair show up, how do you handle that?
Wow, I would contact in person, well, by telephone or in person, the club president, and and be straightforward. Why do you not want to see the zone chair? Why is the zone chair excluded? What have I done? Did I pass gas incorrectly? What's going on here? So, ask the question, and you have to be respectful of their point of view. Maybe there is something that we don't see, entirely possible. So, yeah, you got to handle it carefully. You really do.
Excellent. This is a great question. How do you encourage members to attend zone meetings?
Invitation. Contact the club members, whether it's you do the data download from the LCI website, from the My LCI portion in the members portal. Maybe you do the data download and you contact the members by that means, but invite them. It's very, very possible, very, very likely that there are a lot of club members that have never received an invitation to an event outside of their club. this might be an opportunity.
Here's another question. Should you invite the zone chair to your service events?
I would think that a zone chair would jump on the opportunity to attend a club's service event. Yes.
Following right along on that one. During a zone meeting, should clubs be allowed to talk and share what's going on in their clubs, or is it all just from the zone chair?
I would think that there would be an element of two-way communication going on there. Um, and on the other hand, things that are happening outside the club can be very, very relevant as well. So, I would think open communication, open information would be very relevant no matter what the situation.
I'd just like to add to that, Al, that I think that actually that's some of the most important part of any zone meeting I've ever been to is a club share portion,
Yeah.
because that helps the clubs learn from each other and build some camaraderie across clubs. So they realize there's an opportunity to go to other clubs' projects and fundraisers and learn from one another and support one another.
And it's a great bragging point as well.
Excellent. And this kind of follows along with that. How often should zone meetings take place?
Check your constitution and bylaws for the district. It will spell it out there. For instance, our district requires it once a quarter.
Excellent. In the zone meetings, who does all it? Does the zone chair talk all the time? Do they listen? What percentage? Let's put some numbers on that behind that, Al.
Every zone, every district, every zone chair can conduct a meeting the way they want. Understand the purpose of the zone chair is to exchange information. If the zone chair thinks that the purpose of a zone meeting, of a district governor advisory meeting, is to talk, then you're not exchanging information. It's sort of a one-way street there. So every zone does it differently. Whatever happens to work for you, but hopefully there's a large element of sharing information there.
Excellent. Wendy followed up that as a zone chair, she gets invited to a lot of club events, and she takes a lot of pictures and shares them with the members and shares to the newsletter to let everyone know what's going on.
Here, here.
And suggests having a guest speaker at your zone meetings, give members another reason to attend. This is a comment, and I don't know, Al, if you'd like to respond to it, but when I'm expected to chase clubs for dues, monthly membership reports, service reporting, it makes me feel like a policeman, not a partner. Any ideas on how to overcome that?
The way you convey information, the way you request information, etc., your mannerisms, your tone of voice, the words you choose can have a big impact on people's perceptions. So keep this in mind when you're asking for this information. The zone chair is not, no, I'm not going to phrase it that way. I was going to say the zone chair is not a dictator. Well, of course he's not. But the zone chair, as a position of leadership, is to help out the clubs. And if you get away from that concept, if you get away with that intent, from that intent, then things will start going sideways on you. And again, if you can establish communication, solid communications, even before you take position as zone chair, things are going to work out in your favor.
Awesome. But and those are jobs though that they need to be doing is in following up, because they are, you as a zone chair, you're the main contact with the club. So if there's a challenge there, you really should expect to spend that time. This is a really great question. Is the zone chair expected to know how to train the members in my Lion and my LCI?
It all depends on the zone chair. If the zone chair does not feel that he or she is a very good instructor, then that defaults to the district GLT. So if you've got a district GLT that is able to help out with this training, then exercise that as much as you can. Some districts do not have a GLT. There are other people, Lions around the country that are able to help. Richard and I and Jody, well, I shouldn't include Jody. Maybe I shouldn't include Jody because she's so busy as it is. But there are a wealth of instructors around the country that have gone through the Faculty Development Institute and the Lions, the LCIP, Lions Certified Instructor Program, like myself, and we are willing and able to help out as well. Now, granted, if I was to help out someone in Colorado, for crying out loud, we would be doing it via Zoom, naturally. But there's a lot of instructors out there that are available to help out. All it takes is reaching out and asking.
Awesome. This is an interesting question. How long is the ideal zone meeting time?
For most meetings, and this is sort of a rule of thumb, for most meetings, for me, and 60 to 90 minutes, an hour, hour and a half is probably about at least for me, the most that I want to go. Now, if there's some heavy things that need to be decided and it takes a lot of working through some issues and so forth, sure, maybe it's going to take longer. But for the typical zone meeting, yeah, an hour, hour and a half. If you tack on a meal to that, sure, maybe add on another half hour.
Hey, Nina added a really great point to the prior question about training the officers and the clubs in My Lion and My LCI. Don't forget that your district is likely to have an admin whose responsibility is to help clubs specifically with that learning curve, not just the global leadership team. In
Yep.
some districts, if you don't have a district admin, your global services team or GST coordinator has taken on that role as well, depending on where you are and what your own district has available.
Yep. Yeah. People share their talents no matter what their title, no matter what their position. You bet.
Is a lion required to be a club president before serving as his own chairperson?
It depends on your district's constitution and bylaws. It's spelled out there.
Excellent. Here's a question that we haven't even touched on yet. What role does the region chair play in assisting with the success of the zone chairs?
This is a topic on which I am not specifically well versed. I understand that the position of region chair is between the district governor and the zone chair. Where's my camera? There it is. District governor and the zone chair. and as such, as a go-between, I would think that the region chair is exactly that, a person that can help with the responsibilities of a zone chair. And the sometimes life interferes with your best intentions, so maybe the region chair can pick up some of those tasking, some of those responsibilities. But someone else help me out. Maybe Richard, you have some thoughts on how the region chair fits into this scheme?
Typically, the region chair is the supervisor of the zone chair, at least in our district. So the zone chair reports to the region chair, reports to the district governor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, every district is different. Yeah, I say I'm not well versed on that because in our district, in our multiple district, we don't have region chairs. So every district is different.
They certainly are. So Katrina was asking how she finds us all, and I'm going to drop into the chat a link right now for the Global Lions Forum. The Global Lions Forum is, and Richard, why don't you speak to this since you're one of the founders of it?
7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The Global Lions Forum is open. It's a Facebook group, so you need to be on Facebook. You just ask to join Global Lions Forum. That's GLF up there to my other shoulder. And once you become a member, you can post questions. And if they're approved, then you'll have answers. And you can also message us or post anonymously if there are things that you don't want to do in front of other people.
There's like 15,000 plus members and they're lions from across the globe that ask questions just like we're talking about right now. And you get input from so many different parts of the world that you can take and adapt for your own area. It's an amazing, amazing place to hang out. Hey, Al, I got another question for you.
Okay.
If you want to become a district governor, is zone chair a good training position? And is it required to be a zone chair to become a district governor?
In most situations, again, constitution and bylaws, you want to check that out. It's a requirement. And yes, the zone chair is I will say, a very good stepping stone, if not a required stepping stone to step into district governor position. It is a learning experience, absolutely. The things that you learn as a zone chair, you will also be employing as district governor, only, of course, expanding.
Awesome. I'm
If I could,
scrolling back through the questions because I've been trying to catch them as they come along, but they, like I said, for a while they were coming fast and furious.
while you're looking through there, if I could add one thing regarding the Global Lions Forum, and that is it's a great place for asking questions and getting some very, very good answers. It is not a good place to brag about how you've been able to do something or how your club did something. No, the purpose of the forum is to ask questions and get answers.
Excellent. This is a really great question, and one that I know a lot of our districts struggle with, and that is about finding zone chairs. So could you go back to talking a little bit more about succession planning as far as the zones go and how you find new blood and people that are going to be willing to step up?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone is different. How they do this, and of course, what they're looking for is going to be different from person to person. But you want to, for me, my standard is what I'm looking for is people with a certain level of enthusiasm for Lions and what we do, someone who is curious about what happens within a zone, not just a club, someone who is willing to learn and expand their knowledge, and and certain leadership qualities. There's a wide variety of things that play into the definition of leadership, of course. Public speaking and management, personnel management, etc. It goes on and on and on. But looking for certain qualities in leadership is going to be very, very important. I can tell you one of the first things that catches my eye is a certain level of enthusiasm. When I see someone that is excited about doing things within their club, excited about what's happening beyond their club, and is always looking for something a little bit different, you know, that's my first thing that's going to catch my eye. But again, everyone is different, both the zone chair that's looking for a successor, as well as your potential successors.
Excellent. Joy says she brings it up at each club visit and zone meeting, so everyone knows that new leaders are welcome.
Yes.
And you had talked earlier about that assistant zone chair role. It's a great opportunity to bring someone in and get them trained up and give them an opportunity. The other piece, and Natalie just put the Standard Club Constitution Bylaws link in the chat window. Thank you, Natalie. But Natalie brought up a really good point. Lions Clubs International recently launched what's called a district leadership report. And that report shows Lions in the last 5 years who've served in the roles that qualify them for different district positions. Now, the deal is this. The only way to get that report is to have your district governor request it from district administration at lionsclubs.org. This, by the way, is in the chat if you're interested. And again, if you download the chat, you'll get this information. But it's a fantastic report when it comes time for looking for new zone chairs, looking for second vice district governors, looking for GMT, GLTs, any of those that you need to have that happen.
Here.
Dave, we do have a question about how do you access GLS, the Global Lions Forum, if you're not on Facebook. Unfortunately, that is the only place it resides. It's a group inside of the software and the social media platform. Therefore, you can't get to it without being on Facebook. Alternatively, if you are on LinkedIn as part of your professional career, LinkedIn does have some Lions chat groups that go on in there. I'm not as familiar with them. I haven't been involved with them for a while, but that is another way if you're not into social media that you might look at LinkedIn. And asking, Adam Hopkins brings up, all you had to do is ask. You know, sometimes we all get stuck in that rut and we forget to ask. Hey, here's a good question. How long can you serve as zone chair, past council chair, Al?
At number one is check your district constitution and bylaws, and number two, check out the standard policy from LCI. I believe that there is a limit as to the number of times you can serve as zone chair. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head.
Natalie says it's 3 times. And I will tell you that many of the districts that I've worked with over the years actually they look at a 3-year rotation. You come in your first year and you're pretty green. And as you get going, you know, you kind of hit the ground running your second year and you find your replacement and train your replacement your third year. Yeah, PDGs are not allowed to serve as zone chairs either. That's a great point, Katie. That was changed a couple of years ago. Here's a question, and maybe Natalie is the only one that can answer this, but if you move to another district, can you serve another 3 years or another 3 terms as a zone, 3 times as a zone chair? Natalie says no. That was a quick response.
Yeah, I had
Excellent.
understood that as well. I'd heard that myself, but it's good to have that from the voice of authority. You bet.
But if necessary, past district governors can be appointed by cabinet. That is correct. There's a lot of resources that you can take a look at. Lions Clubs International has a lot of videos out there. The Lions virtual YouTube channel is full of videos and trainings and a lot of different things. There's a lot of good information out there if you're willing to take a look. I love the idea. Also, if you are a zone chair or a past zone chair, or if you've been in the role of district governor, whatever it is, you could become a mentor to a zone chair. You know, it goes back to Al, you were talking about building your team. Look for someone who can mentor you, that can answer your questions as they come up, because that's been around, that's been experienced, and that you respect. And it doesn't have to be someone from your own district. That's the other cool thing. Once you start if you're out on social media, you start to to know people through the GLF, the Global Alliance Forum, or other areas. You can maybe make that kind of a mentoring relationship to learn more from them.
Generally, you will find that everyone wants to see you succeed. So when you come up with questions, when you come up with problems, reach out for help.
Richard brings up a great point. You know, there's a great opportunity to join the GLF if you can, and be on the Global Alliance Forum and keep asking these questions. Asking again about links between zone chairs and guiding lines. I think I responded to someone on that maybe it was a private message. Zone chairs should definitely be in touch with, if there's a guiding line involved in your area with a new club, they should be very much involved in that. And you should be coordinating with them so that you aren't stepping on their toes. A lot of times what we find is that the more of the district people that get involved, the more likely we're stepping on each other. So making sure you've got consistent messaging between you and those guiding lines is really important.
Hear, hear. Yeah.
Through Al, did you have any final comments?
The only thing that I would add in closing is, don't be afraid to ask questions. There's an old saying in my line of work: the only dumb question is the question that's not asked. So don't hesitate to get them out of the way.
Perfect. That, I believe, is it, my friends. Unless there's anything else, thank you all for attending. We hope to see you all at another session.
Good night, all.